All right, you let me know. Give me the word. Give me the go.
Okay, we're currently running live stream now, so you can start whenever you feel like it.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education has established a quorum and calls the March 1st, 2021 regular meeting. Chair recognizes Mr. Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let us pray. May the words spoken in this Zoom tonight be beneficial to the students, parents, staff, and administrators in our school system. And may we be led by the guiding principle to always base our decisions on the best interests of our young people. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Chair recognizes Mr. Williams to present the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, members of the board, it's my honor and privilege to present to you for your consideration and hopefully your approval tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to the agenda?
Move to accept the agenda.
Is that a motion by Mr. Davis?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Woods? Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Davis and a second by Mr. Woods to approve the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Motion carries. First item on the agenda would be board chair comments. I do have a couple things that I would like to say. I will be brief. First of all, I'd like to say we, the board, would like to express a sincere thank you to all of the staff and the employees of Lenore County Public School Systems for all the dedication, determination, and hard work that has gone into the last 12 months to make the students of Lenore County Public Schools as successful as possible under these unusual circumstances that has existed during the last year. We have a lot of positive things going on in Lenore County Public School System. This will be reiterated by our presentation during tonight's meeting. The LCC Lancer Academy partnership, the COVID-19 testing pilot program, and the COVID-19 vaccine rollout for our employees are just a couple that highlight these positives. We appreciate the willingness of Lenore Community College and the Lenore County Health Department to collaborate with the Lenore County Public School System to form these partnerships and to create these opportunities for our students and employees. Again, we say thank you. Also, we have a full agenda tonight, and I would ask that you have any questions or comments, or have your questions and comments ready for our presenters. I would ask that you would request to be recognized before your questions and comments. This will help facilitate an orderly, timely, efficient, and effective meeting. Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Williams for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, we have with us for the first part of our meeting agenda some very special guests. We have Dr. Rusty Hunt, President of Lenore Community College, and his team, Dr. Deborah Grimes, Senior Vice President at LCC, and Ms. Athena Wilson from LCC Leadership. And we appreciate them being with us tonight. They're here to present to you information on the Lancer Academy. As you know, we value our relationship with Lenore Community College, with the leadership team there and all the staff members there. We share many, many students. We thank you all for joining the call. And even more important than that, we appreciate our daily partnership with you. So thank you for being here tonight. Also, Mrs. Pamela Brown, Health Director for Lenore County, also will be joining us for two items on the agenda tonight. And one is the vaccination clinics that we're going to have in our schools starting Wednesday. You're going to hear more about that in the presentation. And then the other item of interest is the testing program for COVID. And we've gotten a word from the NCDHHS in the last week about that and about how that's going statewide and how the state feels about our testing program. So our team will tell you about that. We'll invite Ms. Brown to join in if she wishes and to share anything that she'd like about that. But we certainly appreciate our partnership with her and with the health department. We're in contact with them. To say speed dial would be an understatement. It's literally conversations all day, every day. And we're very pleased. Our efforts, we do believe we're marching toward getting back closer to some semblance of normalcy this week. If you've been looking at the dashboard, and we've extended that, if you've been looking at it over the last week, you've seen that for last week, our numbers were lower than they've been at any point since September for positive cases and for quarantines among staff members and students. So we're very pleased by that. The LCPS Spelling Bee was on Friday. It was an outstanding event. We had great participation. All of our schools participated. I want to congratulate all who participated. We did have 3 top spellers emerge from the Spelling Bee. They will advance to regional competition. Our third place winner was Nolan Carroll from Contentnia Savannah K-8 School. Our second place winner was Caleb Espino from LaGrange Elementary School. And our first place winner was Wesley Vernon of Woodington Middle School. So congratulations to all the spellers who competed, and especially congratulations to our top 3 who will advance to the next level. And Wesley and Caleb and Nolan will all be going to the Regional Scripps Howard Regional Spelling Bee in Charlotte later this month. So outstanding effort, and we're so proud of our spellers. It's a busy month and a busy week. Elementary Science Olympiad is coming up later this week. We're excited about this opportunity for all of our students. Board members will be sending out more information to you about that. National Read Across America Week is this week in celebration of Dr. Seuss's birthday, but really in celebration of literacy and reading. So our schools have planned many special events this week to commemorate and celebrate that, and to celebrate reading and literacy in general. Very exciting week in our schools, especially our elementary schools with that. Cognia Accreditation, our 5-year accreditation process is coming around. We've been mentioning this all year. Well, the time is now. March is now, and March 22nd, the week of March 22nd, our visiting team from all over the United States will be visiting. It's a virtual visit this year, but they'll be zooming in with various stakeholder groups. It starts actually on Sunday the 21st, but our official kickoff will be Monday the 22nd, and it will go through Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Wednesday will be the wrap-up day and the checkout day, and we'll get a summary of the results on Monday. But we've had a small army of people working on this. I want to thank Ms. Herring. I want to thank the whole team, everybody from Mr. Harvey, Ms. Herring, everybody in LCPS. Staff members have been working on this. Many parents have been working on it, stakeholders, students, everybody, student surveys. And I want to thank in advance board members and elected officials, people like Dr. Hunt and Dr. Grimes, and county commissioners and school board members and other elected officials that we're asking to be interviewed or to serve on those focus group panels. Just thank you so much. It's accreditation can be a bear, but we feel well prepared, and we're excited about the opportunity to show where we are as a school system. Yes, it will look different during COVID and during a pandemic, but this is a 5-year process, so we can show the whole 5 years. So excited about that. Grants, our teachers, our staff members, our students, parents are all working very hard, making many sacrifices every day during these difficult circumstances, but they continue to excel. And I'm so proud of them, so proud of what they're doing. And they continue to knock it out of the park for the benefit of the kids we serve. 2020, 2021 is shaping up to be a record-setting school year. We currently are on pace to have more grant dollars earned by our teachers and district level administrators in writing and submitting winning grant proposals than any other year in the history of our district. Now, what excites me is this will be the 4th consecutive year that that's been the case. And our teachers have done that, and our other staff members have done that, our administrators have done that. So congratulations. That's extra effort, and they have just made that happen, willed it to happen through their extra effort. Last month, I told you about the child nutrition grant for $50,000 that our district earned as a district level grant for all 17 of our schools. Well, for the benefit of all 17 of our schools, I think middle and high school was the focus. But this month, I'm very pleased to tell you, in fact, we just found out about this today, but one of our teachers has earned a $10,000 grant. It's my honor to share with you that Mr. Joseph Noble, agriculture education teacher at South Lenoir High School, has been awarded a North Carolina Schools Go Outside grant from the NC Outdoor Heritage Advisory Council. The advisory council has asked Representative Chris Humphrey and Senator Jim Perry. They've invited them to present to assist in presenting the award, the grant award, to Mr. Noble and Ms. Pierce and the South Lenoir team. And Representative Humphrey did contact us this afternoon and send us a message that he had already contacted Mr. Noble about this award. So congratulations to Mr. Noble, to Ms. Pierce, to the South Lenoir Agriculture Education team, and the entire Blue Devil family. That's outstanding. It represents extra effort. It represents excellence. We're proud of you. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And I think that we all can see from what Mr. Williams has informed us about, we indeed do have some good positive things going on in Lenoir County Public Schools. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Mrs. Murchison, are there any public comments?
There are two tonight.
Okay.
Right. We'll start with one from Nicholas Green, President of Lenoir County Association of Educators. Good evening. NCAE started 2021 with a big dream to visit all 100 counties in North Carolina to celebrate how public schools are working for our communities and to share ideas on how to strengthen them into the future. From Murphy to Manio, the We Heart Public Schools Tour RV will visit every North Carolina county. The tour is well on its way. The tour kicked off in Durham in January and has already made it to the Outer Banks. Today, the tour made stops at 3 locations in Lenoir County: Cognia Savannah School, South Lenoir High School, and Rochelle Middle School. As part of the celebration, we put out a call for nominations for lovable Lenoir leaders. These nominees could be any LCPS employee making a difference by being a positive influence in their building, in the lives of their students, and the lives of their colleagues. We received 5 nominations. These people are a part of what makes our schools wonderful, and we love them for it. They are as follows: Shalana Newkirk from Northwest Elementary School, Trakita Bowser also from Northwest, Brenda Saunders Moultrie from Rochelle Middle, Betty Hall from South Lenoir, and Christian Dawson Chadwick from Cognia Savannah. Congratulations to each one of these ladies. As always, we thank you for all of your leadership, and we hope to continue to build a working relationship with you all, leadership and board alike. With all good wishes, I do remain very humbly yours, Nicholas Green. The second public comment is from Michelle Cash. Good evening, board members. What a surprise, a Zoom meeting. Let's get right to it. 2 of you continue to speak out of both sides of your mouth. One boasts of having an open door policy and being extremely transparent. That could not be farther from the truth. You even used that promise during your reelection campaign. However, you are the most closed off member, and you consistently refuse to meet with parents and with the public that you so boastfully serve. The other is flat out wishy-washy. You agree to meet in person, but when it comes time to vote to do so, you scurry back to your corner and vote against it. Which one is it? You can't continue to have it both ways. Teachers and students have been in classrooms for months, and you cannot meet in person. You surely don't mind making an unplanned visit to campus, so what's the difference? What it all comes down to is the fact that a majority of the board has and continues to fail our children by not wanting to face the public. Eventually, you're going to have to do so. If you're scared to face the public, scared to stand behind your decisions, or anything else for that matter, then you need to vacate your seat. Recuse yourself from your position and let it be filled by someone who will actually work for our children. Enough is enough. It is past time to meet in person, fed up with the lack of leadership, Michelle Cash.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you, Mrs. Murchison. And we'd like to thank the public for their time and their comments. Okay, the next item, we're moving to our presentation portion of the agenda. And first of all, I'd like to do the same as Mr. Williams. I would like to welcome Dr. Rusty Hunt, Dr. Deborah Grimes, and Ms. Athena Wilson from LCC. And we'd like to thank them for all that they do for Lenoir County Public School System. Chair recognizes Ms. Amy Jones to present LCC Lancer Academy Partnership with Lenoir County Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. It's my pleasure this evening again to welcome Dr. Rusty Hunt, President of Lenoir Community College, Dr. Deborah Grimes, Senior Vice President of Instruction and Student Services, and Mrs. Athena Wilson, Director of Student Success and Equity. And we're here tonight to share with you a very exciting partnership. We touched on it briefly a few months ago, but Lenoir Community College is here tonight to give you a few more details about the Lancer Academy, which is a very exciting and innovative partnership that we're ready to put in place with our high schools. And so without any further ado, I will turn it over to Lenoir Community College. And Dr. Hunt, I'll pull up the presentation if you need me to do so, if you'll just tell me when to move the slides.
Okay, thank you. I would appreciate if you would do that, Ms.
Okay.
Jones. And so, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, we certainly appreciate this opportunity. We were so excited tonight to share. I know Ms. Jones has shared a kind of preliminary version, and we're going to make a short presentation. I know you got a long agenda tonight, but just want you to know how much we appreciate our partnership. And were it not for the strength of our partnership, I don't think this academy would be happening. So we're so very grateful to you all, to the board, but also specifically to Superintendent Williams, Mr. Harvey, Ms. Herring, Ms. Jones, and Ms. Bryant, who have worked so hard with us to develop this academy over the last number of months. This academy actually kind of, the seed for this was planted probably a year and a half, 2 years ago when Superintendent Williams and I were having lunch and we're just batting around some ideas. And so at that point, we didn't have a real clear idea of exactly the direction we wanted to go, but certainly tonight we're happy to present what our final opportunity is that we want to present to you tonight. But again, thank you for the partnership. I do want to mention the kind of focus of this academy is around health sciences, which I know you're already been briefed on that. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the specifics. I know Ms. Jones talked about some of the overall things and the programs. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Wilson here in just a moment, who is our Director of Student Success and Equity, but she's also the leading force behind our Career and College Promise programs, which she does a fantastic job on. I do want to say, talk again, kind of reiterate some of Ms. Jones's opportunities that she highlighted, but also talk about a couple others. But first of all, the first opportunity, of course, is to increase access to high demand and high salary careers for students, not only at Kinston High School, but obviously other folks around the system who want to come and be a part of this academy. The second is to create more access to face-to-face Career and College Promise courses, which we will be delivering on the Kinston campus, of course, assuming that you all approve that. And then we will deliver college programs on that high school campus and eliminate some of those barriers to access that many students have, whether that's transportation, technology, other obligations that they have there on the high school campus or with their families. So we want to make it as easy as possible for folks to access the academy. And so we thought that'd be a great idea to host it there on the Kinston High School campus and to utilize some of that space. But one of the things I also want to mention that's important, and Athena will talk a little bit about this, is this isn't just offering courses on the campus. It's also offering wraparound services to students and also to developing engagement with our outside partners, whether that's hospitals, doctors' offices, and other healthcare professionals, to be able to come in and meet with students and speak to the classes and that sort of thing. But we're really, really excited about it. And I'm going to turn it over now to Ms. Wilson and let her talk a little bit about specifics of the program. And then I'll come back around and we'll talk a little bit about next steps and certainly be available to answer any questions that you have. So Athena, if you can take over.
Okay, you can go to the next slide, Amy.
Okay.
So our Lancer Academy is being based off of CCP eligibility criteria. So this is the standard eligibility criteria. Students have to be 11th or 12th grade and have to have an unweighted GPA of a 2.8 or higher. That requirement changes when you add CTE programs, or your career and technical areas. There is some leniency on the GPA with the recommendation of the principal, and then your 9th and 10th graders have some different requirements. I won't go into detail about those, but those things have been shared with the counselor so we can identify students pretty easily. The pathway options for our initial rollout for the academy will be pre-health science, medical assisting, certified nursing assistant through our workforce development, and medical office administration. Right now, students have access to any of the pathways that we offer through CCP. There's a number of them. We just wanted to be able to offer something more structured through the Health Science Academy that would help students achieve those credentials and those degrees that are in those high-paying jobs. So this is a proposed schedule. So a student who's pretty ambitious and can front load their classes, and front loading means they're taking all their standard high school graduation requirements in those English, math, science, social studies areas during their first 2 years of high school. This is just a work through schedule. So some students aren't able to do this rigorous of coursework, but this is just for a student who has and is able to front load all their classes. Their schedule will look something like this. In the other column, we have academic coaching and advising. So right now we have a career coach that comes to the school pretty frequently, that meets with students to talk about their interests and what they're looking forward to doing, and trying to expose them to different careers or colleges. You also have college advisors in your schools, and then we're proposing to have some staff that will be staffing our academy that will also be supporting students in the 9th and 10th grade to help prepare them for 11th and 12th grade. You can go on, Amy. And then for this particular pathway, this is our pre-health science pathway. The pre-health science pathway has a lot of gen ed requirements that are prerequisites to get into nursing or practical nursing polysonography, and those are listed at the top. So a student who's interested in pre-health science would be completing a lot of their prerequisites in order for them to apply into these programs during their senior year. You can also notice that in the 11th and 12th grade, we have a column that has LCC or KHS high school classes. So for students who are not able to front load all of their core requirements, they are able to flex their schedule. So they're able to get those requirements in and still obtain a significant amount of credit to put them ahead of where they would be with no credit. And these are the college classes for the medical assisting option, given that students are still front loading their coursework. As you can see, they still have options to flex their schedule to take an LCC course or additional LCC courses or their Kinston High courses to make sure they're meeting high school graduation requirements. So we're trying to adjust for all students, not just assuming that all students can front load their classes, but giving students the option to take as many or as few classes as they can handle. And what we're planning is that the coaching and the advising will help us determine which schedule to put students on, so we're not overloading them. And so our support services would consist of a full-time person there on the campus that would be in the Lancer Academy facilitating the things that are going on there, and working with high school staff to make sure that students are receiving any kind of support services that they need through the high school, and then working with the college to bring in support services that students might need. Tutoring is a big thing that I run into now with students taking classes online. Sometimes it's difficult to get help or get questions answered. So we want to be able to provide those services on their campus and a more hands-on approach to taking college classes. So this would just be in collaboration with whatever's happening at the high school. So the students are seeing both the high school staff that they're comfortable with, as well as our staff to help them get through their college courses.
All right, and I will pick up on this part, which is kind of the next steps. And we went through that relatively quickly, but The next steps would be marketing and promotion, and of course, working with you all on what that might look like. We think it's going to be important to ultimately market to middle schoolers because obviously, as you could see from Athena's kind of chart of courses, we want to get students early so they can really start thinking about college, even after high school and even while they're in high school. And so developing that marketing and promotion material, we've already done some of that kind of prep work for that. Also staffing that Athena just talked about is hiring that person. We'll probably, assuming this is approved, start advertising for that position and get that in place ahead of time to get them trained and ready to go and working with your folks over at Kinston High School as well. And then we will look at particularly the spaces that we looked at. Hopefully, we will be able to still utilize those, which will be a separate a building there on your campus that we are so appreciative to potentially be able to have. We would like to renovate, do some minor renovations of that space to kind of make it look like a college campus on the high school campus, kind of get a different feel when you move over to feel like you're in college, and also to do some equipment installation. So there's a number of courses that we already offer on the high school campuses. There's also another slew of courses that we offer online, but we want to do more face-to-face stuff there. But we started doing something this last year with COVID called synchronous learning. And so we have equipment, really high-tech equipment, where we can stream live with the students in different schools. So what that will do is allow us to offer more courses to students that can have a face-to-face interaction. So sometimes we'll be on campus, obviously, offering those courses. And other times there may be a psychology class or something like that, that they just want to join other students on the main campus, but they want to do it real time and be able to speak to the faculty member and ask questions and speak to their classmates that may be in the other class, that sort of stuff. So really, really nice modern equipment that we would install over there. And then as Athena mentioned, and I think Ms. Jones mentioned in her presentation, is that we'll phase this rollout. And so obviously our goal is to roll this out to beginning in this coming fall, COVID making it possible for us, hopefully. But also it'll take some time for this to mature, obviously, over time. You can see that's a kind of a 4-year program for folks coming in from 8th grade into 9th grade. Obviously, seniors going in next year would be able to take some courses, but obviously they're not going to be able to get all the courses. So it'll take a couple years for it to kind of germinate and kind of get fully stocked as far as a student goes. But we're excited about it. We think it's going to be a great opportunity, again, to high wage careers for folks and students to have those options for particularly healthcare, which is obviously not going anywhere anytime soon. And these are great careers. In addition, what we see a lot from our students who go through our nursing programs and other healthcare programs is they go on to get their 4-year degree afterwards. Many of our nursing students in particular do that online through either ECU or UNC Wilmington. Primarily, those are the primary 2 partners that many of our students go to. And a lot of times those degrees are paid for by the employer. So our nurses are out working at UNC Lenoir or Vidant or wherever. And in many cases, those last 2 years are being paid for by the employer, and they're working while they're going to school. So most of these, all of these degrees really, for the most part, can be achieved debt-free for students. And that's what certainly we want to make that available to the students, but also it's a great deal for mom and dad. And a number of your students already across our system, across your system, are taking advantage of that. I think we've got over 800 students in Lenoir County that are taking advantage of that. We've got about 1,200 or plus across our 3-county system that are taking advantage of that and saving a lot of money in higher education. So again, we're excited about it. We hope you are too. But again, we appreciate the partnership, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have on any of the presentation. Obviously, we haven't covered everything, but we want to be respectful of your time tonight. So thank you for having us, and we'll be happy to answer questions.
Any questions or comments from Mrs. Jones, Dr. Hunt, Dr. Grimes, or Mrs. Wilson?
Dr. Hunt, we appreciate your tremendous, an offer of such a tremendous investment in our school system. Your college has been providing very expensive equipment on our campuses for a lot of years and providing staff members at no cost to our district to teach courses for a number of years. And we appreciate that partnership, and we see this as a logical extension of that. But a deep and wide investment by you all, and it's something that we don't have the resources to do, and we certainly appreciate your willingness to do that. And particularly for board members, let me tell you, the higher end equipment that he's talking about in health sciences and really with the trades, we've been doing this for a number of years, like with machining technology and welding and things like that. They have a virtual welder. We couldn't afford anything like that. But the higher end equipment and facilities that LCC already has, we're not duplicating that. We're working with the same students, and it's efficiently approaching the process of preparing our kids without trying to spend money two ways and then split it times 3 schools at all of our schools. So we think it's a win-win, and we appreciate you, Dr. Hunt, and your team, Dr. Grimes, and Ms. Wilson, and all that y'all are doing for us.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? All right, thank you, Mrs. Jones, Dr. Hunt, Dr. Grimes, and Mrs. Wilson. Let me just say on a personal note, when I've been to board training and talked to other board members, I have gotten the feeling too that other systems don't have the relationship with their community college that we have in Lenoir County. And they don't seem to understand how we can have such a great relationship. This is just another emphasis on what a great partnership that we have with Lenoir County Public Schools and LCC. I think it's a great initiative. And with the collaboration, I think it's going to be a great opportunity for our students. And again, we thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Next item on the agenda, the presentation. And I would also like to welcome Ms. Pam Brown from Lenoir County Health Department and say thank Ms. Brown for the work that she's done in working with Lenoir County Public Schools. And the chair will now recognize Mr. Nick Harvey and Ms. Pam Heath for a presentation on Lenoir County Public Schools and Lenoir County Health Department partnership for vaccinations for teachers and other staff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, board members. Tonight, Ms. Pam Heath and I will provide an update on the COVID-19 vaccine clinic that will allow our staff members the opportunity to receive the vaccine. I would first like to thank Ms. Pam Brown, Director of the Lenoir County Health Department, Ms. Pam Heath, our Director of Human Resources, and our LCPS team of school nurses. The partnership between our two entities is strong and unwavering, and we are extremely grateful for this opportunity for our employees. Ms. Heath will now provide an update on logistics of the clinic. Ms. Heath?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. I am thrilled to report that we will be administering almost 500 vaccines this Wednesday, March 3rd. We will have 3 sites, Kinston High, North Lenoir High School, and South Lenoir High School. The numbers vary from site to site, from 160 to 140 to 150 at each of the sites. What we've done in collaboration with DHHS, and we really appreciate Pam Brown's assistance with that. They've provided staff, we've provided staff. We have about 11 individuals that will be helping at each site in administering the vaccines. What we're doing is 10 every 20 minutes. We've set up a schedule, 10 o'clock, 10:20, 10:40, 11, 11:20, 11:40. So 10 individuals will be getting their shot in a 20-minute time span. There'll be 2 to 3 nurses at each site that will be helping to administer. We have the health department's provided National Guard assistance there as well. So the site times, the vaccinations will begin at 10, and it varies by site, but most of the last vaccines will be given by 3:20 or 3:40 so that we can wrap up hopefully by 4 or 4:30 at the latest. And our second administration for those vaccines is already scheduled on Wednesday, March 31st. Thank you.
And as I said earlier, Ms. Pam Brown and her team are vital partners and have been for some time, but especially now in the era of COVID. And we extend our sincere thanks to her and her team for her daily phone calls, as Mr. Williams indicated earlier. She has been a champion for us, and we are grateful. So thank you, Ms. Brown. Anything you would like to add, Ms. Brown, please do so.
Well, I appreciate the partnership so much. We have been on a journey this year, and y'all have become such great public health practitioners in the school system, and it's been wonderful to work with you. And I'm so excited that we are now talking about vaccines. So thank you to all of you, because this is possible because of your planning efforts. And I especially want to say thank you to Mr. Williams and to you, Mr. Harvey, and to Pam Heath for all the work that she's done on this. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll entertain any questions that the board may have regarding the clinic.
Any question or comments for Mr. Harvey, Ms. Heath, or Ms. Brown? Okay, thank you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you, Mrs. Heath, and thank you, Mrs. Brown. I'd like to say, I think this is a great opportunity to have a collaboration between the Lenore County Public Schools and the Health Department. I think it's a great opportunity to provide a necessary service to the employees of Lenore County Public Schools. Next item on presentation. Chair recognizes Mr. Nick Harvey for an update on the COVID-19 testing pilot program at our schools.
Right, so we'll continue with this theme of thanks again to Ms. Brown and her guidance for our pilot testing program. Last month, as you recall, I provided an update of the COVID-19 pilot testing program. During the month of January, our school nurses provided 244 COVID-19 tests to our students and staff members. I'm very pleased to report to you that tonight, during the month of February, the number of tests conducted jumped to 504 tests. 74 or 14.6% of those tests did come back positive for COVID-19. I would like to again express my sincerest gratitude to our super team of school nurses. Additionally, Lenore County Public Schools has been recognized by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services for its outstanding COVID-19 pilot program. No other pilot district has conducted as many tests as Lenore County Public Schools have. Needless to say, they are very impressed with the quality of school nurses that we have in Lenore County Public Schools, and we all are as well. Testing did resume today, and I'll provide an update to the board during next month's meeting of the March numbers. I'll entertain any questions you may have regarding the pilot program.
Mr. Harvey, maybe Ms. Brown wants to comment on that too. She was on that call, I believe, a second call with DHHS when they identified Lenore County as one of the pilot districts, and let us know, contacted us formally to let us know that they would like to try to do what we're doing, use our model and scale it for the other districts to make it available. So Ms. Brown was on the call though, and she and I had talked about that as well.
Yes, it was a wonderful call and a great testimony to your fabulous school nurses that the state of North Carolina is looking at the work that they are doing as a model for school systems across the state. So I know you couldn't be prouder of them. I couldn't be prouder of them. This is what they have done, is given a tremendous resource to the school system to keep your facilities and your classrooms safer, just because they are identifying cases so quickly, so that again, you can keep those spaces safe. So kudos to all of them, and thank you again for this fabulous partnership.
Thank you, Ms. Brown.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Wood.
One question to Mr. Harvey or his group there. Of the 241 44 tests, how many was false positive tests?
So, Mr. Woods, I wouldn't have that. Maybe Ms. Heath will have that, or Ms. Brown. So it's very rare to have a false positive. We did deal with false negatives initially. We are aware that a few situations last week there may have been a false positive on the rapid test, and after a PCR test, there may have been a different result, but that number is small. Ms. Heath or Ms. Brown, do you have those numbers by chance?
I do not have those, but I know as far as the ones that have been brought to our attention, I'm only aware of maybe 2 staff cases and 1 student case. That's all that's been brought to my attention. Now, Ms. Brown may have some more information.
Well, just like Mr. Harvey said, most of the time contamination would give you a false positive. And I just want education on that, and I got what I need.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Ms. Brown, do you have any additional information on that?
Well, sometimes if there's not a follow-up test, it's difficult to know. We just go off whatever that rapid says. So, in some cases, we recommend if somebody is symptomatic and has a negative rapid that they get the PCR, but without, again, having that PCR test, it's difficult to precisely identify those false results. But again, those rapid tests have proven their efficacy, and they're getting better and better. And we normally recognize a positive rapid test as a true positive, and we act on it accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Any questions or comments for Mr. Harvey, Ms. Brown? Okay, thank you, Mr. Harvey. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. And again, I'd like to thank Ms. Brown for working with the Lenoir County Public Schools in trying to get this set up. I'd also like to recognize and thank Mr. Elijah Wood for making the Lenoir County Public School Administration aware of the pilot program and helping them get that started. And I'd like to say that, I think this is a positive step in getting our kids in the classrooms. Next item, next presentation, the chair recognizes Mr. Brent Williams, Mrs. Frances Herring, Mr. Nick Harvey for a presentation of Lenoir County Public School Option B update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, in our continuing regular monthly updates, Ms. Herring is going to provide our implementation summary of Option B, progress report from the instructional lens, and Mr. Harvey from the operational lens. Ms. Herring?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Board of Education. As a continuation of our report from last month, we continue to be able to accommodate students whose parents are desperate for their children to be attending 4 days a week. Every week, our principals are reassessing space and are able to accommodate as many students as possible, of course, safely and by following the 3 W's. And they are doing a fantastic, phenomenal job. I'm very proud of our principals and our teachers for their relentless efforts to continue to accommodate the needs of our students and families. And I'd like to thank the board for providing this opportunity where there has been interest and available space. Thank you.
Mr. Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Williams. And thank you again, Mr. Chairman. I'll give an update on the operations side of Plan B. As of today, there have been no updates to the limited rider capacity for districts operating under Plan B. Therefore, we will continue to impose strict social distancing guidelines for our bus riders, which means, as you recall, 1 child per seat unless they're from the same household. And technology, later this evening, Mr. White and his team will provide an update on the MacBook and iPad, the ILCPS refresh. Mr. White and his DLS team, they've done an outstanding job of this refresh, and you'll hear more information from him in a few moments. In child nutrition, Ms. Smith and her entire staff continue to increase the number of breakfast and lunch meals served each day. We again surpassed the 5,500 meal mark per day during the month of February, and we're excited for all of our families that are participating in the school lunch program. In athletics, last week, we concluded our winter sports seasons and have smoothly transitioned into our fall sports seasons. That's right, our fall sports seasons. High school football, soccer, and middle school football did begin, and we are really excited for our students, our parents, and our coaches. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association, in response to the governor's new executive order, which we'll talk about a little later, will permit outside venues under a 5,000 seating capacity to allow spectators of up to 30% with strict social distancing guidelines. You still must remain 6 feet apart in those outside events. So we'll have our parents, increased number of spectators for our football and soccer games. Our cheerleaders will be involved. Our band members will be there. So we're really excited about our fall sports in the spring competition. So we will provide an update to the board if and when additional modifications to our number of spectators increases. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Williams, Mr. Herring, or Mr. Harvey?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Mr. Anderson.
a question for Mr. Harvey. Mr. Harvey, with the new CDC guidelines regarding ventilation, have we juxtaposed our current status with the new guidelines?
So, not really understanding your question.
Okay, the new guidelines that the CDC just put out on ventilations in schools, where they recommend the HEPA filters and they are meeting the ventilation code requirements. Have we matched out too?
We are definitely aware of those guidelines, Mr. Anderson, and we are in communication with several vendors. Mr. Arnold, our environmental coordinator, almost daily, we're being presented with options. That is something that we're going to discuss during our capital budget process, but definitely we're aware of those and we'll be in full compliance.
I guess my concern is our older buildings,
Sure.
if they're up to snuff.
So as you recall, I think this came up in March or April, right when we got out, we were preparing for what would happen when schools reopened. Our building level custodians and our maintenance teams are working hard to replace filters as prescribed. So I can tell you that is being done. But as far as new equipment, that has not been installed at this time, but we are aware of several different opportunities for not a complete overhaul of our equipment, but adding things in classrooms such as filters or air scrubbers. We have ordered those. We've ordered a significant amount of those, and they can be deployed when there are emergencies. So yes, sir, we will be prepared.
Thank you.
All right, any more questions or comments from Mr. Williams, Mr. Harrington, and Mr. Harvey? All right, I'd like to thank Mr. Williams, Mrs. Harrington, and Mr. Harvey for the presentation. Move to the next presentation item. The chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring for an overview and a summary of the activities to recognize Black History Month in Lenoir County Public Schools.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Board. I look forward to this presentation each year so that I can highlight for you the interesting, insightful, and motivational experiences and lessons our teachers and staff plan for our students during Black History Month. We asked every school to share with us how they were celebrating and recognizing Black History Month this year. And there were so many amazing lessons and projects submitted. There's no way I could share them all with you. And I hope the schools that are not highlighted tonight do not feel slighted in any way. All of you did a great job, but I could only share a few examples from each grade span. I hope you enjoy it. At Moss Hill Elementary, Black History Month projects were assigned to each student, and they were assigned a famous person in Black history. Students researched and created a written report, a pic collage, a chatter pics, which I'm getting ready to share with you, and video for their projects. Projects were completed at home and in person. Pictured here is the second grade team who wore their dashikis every Friday, and even some students joined in too. A dashiki is a loose, brightly colored shirt or tunic originally from West Africa. And I'm going to share with you a chatter pics from a student in second grade.
My name is Harriet Tubman. I was born in 1822. I held 3 Underground Railroad so I could help free the slaves. Hint, hint, it was not a real train. Underground Railroad was a secret name. It was a route. My real name is Atrama Ross. I named myself Harriet after my mother.
I think you can agree that was very sweet. Several schools, including Northeast Elementary, held a Black History Spirit Week celebrating famous African-American role models from the past and present. They did that on one day. Colors of the Pan-African flag were celebrated on another day, and professional excellence on yet another day. Students also completed a research project on an influential African-American. The Encyclopedia Britannica defines Pan-Africanism as the sentiment that people of African descent have a great deal in common, in fact, a fact that deserves notice and even celebration. Art students at Frink Middle School studied the outdoor public murals that can be found in downtown Kinston. The murals were part of a grant aimed at enhancing connectivity between cultural and economic assets in Kinston City Center. The subject matter of many of the murals found in Kinston feature local Black history, which highlights the city's African-American citizens and their role in the arts, local government, sports, along with pivotal moments in the history of Adkin High School, not in mentioning specifically the walkout in 1951. Students were taught what a mural is, how they are planned, designed, and created, along with learning about the artists who were chosen to paint the murals in Kinston. Students also researched the significance each mural has to the Kinston-Lenoir County community. Students have begun to design their very own public mural, which focuses on the history of E.B. Frink Middle School. Students at Frink Middle School also spent time learning about poet Amanda Gorman and historical African-American figures through a myriad of cross-curricular research projects. Rochelle Middle School celebrated with a school-wide theme called An Ancient Heritage Uniting with a Bright Future. The school's goal was to provide a greater understanding of history by taking the time to unite the achievements of present-day leaders to the leaders of the past, but not only immediate past, but the ancient past. An Ancient Heritage United with a Bright Future is a collaborative, multidisciplinary, month-long project that culminated in two major events. One was a virtual living museum style Black History program, and the other is a community service project. The community service project asked students, what do you think of when you hear 301 North Rochelle Boulevard? The front of the building is on Cogdale Drive, but anyone searching for Rochelle via GPS will more than likely pull up to the old front of the building on the hill. This side has no signage and generally, according to the students, looks bland. Leadership classes are working on beautifying the old front with plants and planters, and art classes will work on painting temporary outside signage. Of course, this project will continue past the month of February. Miss Daniels' visual art students at Kinston High School have been analyzing African-American culture. They focused on significant events, visual arts, and influential people. Students created works of art to visually depict their studies. There are two examples here on the screen from two of her seniors, Tijel W. and Italia H. After the 2021 presidential inauguration, English 3 students in Miss Inslee's class at Kinston High School listened to two Amanda Gorman poems, including her poem, The Hill We Climb and The Miracle of Morning. Students discussed connections to texts that they have talked about in class. As an extension activity, students were instructed to create a response to one of Gorman's poems. Doriana H. wrote a poem in response to Amanda Gorman's work. Doriana's poem is titled The I Climb. And as a high school English teacher myself, who loved teaching poetry and writing, I love this lesson, and the rigor that this extension activity provides is actually very impressive. And finally,
I don't know how to get out of here without closing.
students and teachers at Northwest teamed up to celebrate Black History Month. Students and teachers picked their favorite books that were important and influential to them and read them aloud. The read-alouds were recorded and then shared on the Northwest Facebook page so the school's whole community could celebrate together. I'd like to close tonight's presentation with our very own second grader at Northwest, Jalea, who was dressed as Serena Williams in this precious picture as she reads the book, I Am Enough. Thank you, Jalea.
I Am Enough by Grace By, read by me, Julia Boyd. Like the sun, I'm here to shine. Like the voice, I'm here to sing. Like the bird, I'm here to fly and soar high over everything. Like the trees, I'm here to grow. Like the mountains, here to stand. Like time, I'm here to be and be everything I can. Like the champ, I'm here to fight. Like the heart, I'm here to love. Like a ladder, here to climb, and like the air, to rise above. Like the wind, I'm here to push. Like a rope, I'm here to pull. Like the rain, I'm here to pour and drip and fall until I'm full. Like the moon, I'm here to dream. Like the student, here to learn. Like the water, here to swell. Like the fire, here to burn. Like the winner, I'm here to win. And if I don't, get up again. I know that I may sometimes cry, but even then, I'm here to try. I'm not meant to be like you. You're not meant to be like me. Sometimes we'll get along, and sometimes we will disagree. I know that we don't look the same. Our skin, our eyes, our hair, our frame. But that does not dictate our worth. We both have places here on earth. And in the end, we are right here to live a life of love, not fear. To help each other when it's tough, to say together, I am enough.
Good job, Jalea. So that concludes my report on Black History Month in Lenore County for the year 2021. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions or comments from Mrs. Herring? All right, thank you, Mrs. Herring. Now, I know it will be difficult, like you said, difficult to get all 17 schools, but would you have illustrations from the schools that maybe you could share with each of the board members so we could see?
Absolutely. So we had a Google document, and every school has to submit how they recognize Black History Month in their schools. And so I do have a comprehensive document that I'd be happy to share with the board on how all 17 schools have celebrated Black History Month. I would be an honor for me to share that with you. And I just appreciate you letting me share it with you tonight, the pieces that I did.
Okay, I think that would be a good idea. I think our board would like to see all the hard work.
I will be happy to put that together. I'll have it to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Herring. And I'd just like to say, just from evidence what we saw, the students and the teachers did a great job of highlighting the importance of Black history to our society. Thank you again, Mrs. Herring.
Thank you.
Next item on the presentation, the chair recognizes Mrs. Herring again for an update on Lenore County Cognia Accreditation Review.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board. I have on your documents that are uploaded, you actually have the schedule for our accreditation visit. And I've just simply pulled some highlights from that. We have been working diligently on this for over a year now. We are in the last rows and the accreditation is this month. So I look forward to sharing with you dates and times, and any questions you have, I'll be happy to answer them. So on Monday, March 22nd is when we all actually are involved. The accreditation review team will actually convene on Sunday night. But starting on Monday, March 22nd, Mr. Williams and his designated team members must provide an overview of our improvement journey at 8:30. And then they will transition at 9:45 to an interview with just our superintendent, Mr. Williams. At 11:15, there'll be 2 focus groups that'll be happening simultaneously. The team is composed of 7 members, and so they split themselves up. The first focus group at 11:15 is really the curriculum side of the house. It's going to be curriculum directors, federal programs, accountability, EC, instructional technology. And then the second focus group is the sort of the operational side of the house. That's going to be HR, maintenance, transportation, finance, technology, information, our IPO, and nutrition directors. And like I said, those meetings will both happen, those interviews will both happen at the same time at 11:15. At 2 o'clock, I've highlighted this for you. I believe that Ms. Taylor has been working with you and reaching out to you, but they have asked, they have to meet, the accreditation team has to meet with the board. And it's part of the process, is an important piece. And they have scheduled Monday, March 22nd at 2 o'clock to be the board member focus groups. Mr. Hill, the chairman, will meet strictly with the lead evaluator. It will be just the chairman with the lead evaluator. And then the 6 remaining board members will be broken into 2 groups of 3 to avoid a quorum. And all of these 3 meetings will happen at the same time at 2 o'clock. And of course, scheduling can be very complicated, and we respect your time and obligations that you have outside of your service to Lenoir County, to the Lenoir County Board. So please just continue to work with Jessie Taylor, and we will do all we can to accommodate you. That's not a problem. We are here to do that. At 3:15, the principal focus groups will convene. So the elementary principals will meet in a group, and the middle and high school principals will meet in a group with our evaluation team. At 3:15, that's an hour. And then the evaluation team will spend the rest of the afternoon in a teamwork session. On Tuesday, we begin again at 8:30 in the morning. Our team will meet with in different groups. There'll be different focus groups. All of the assistant principals will meet in a focus group. All of our digital learning specialists will meet in a focus group, and all of our curriculum specialists will meet in a focus group. At 10:15, the team will transition to meeting with teachers. So there will be 2 teachers. They've asked for 2 teachers to come from every school, and the elementary teachers, that'll be around 18, will be in one group, and then the secondary, your middle school and high school teachers, will be in a second focus group. At 1 o'clock, there'll be a focus group for all of the school counselors, and then there will be a focus group for all of our media specialists, all of our librarians. So they will both meet at 1 o'clock in 2 separate focus groups. And then at 2 o'clock, the team has asked to reconvene with district level personnel to be able to provide, if they have any follow-up questions or need any additional information, they've asked to meet with us at 2 o'clock so that we can provide them if there's anything else that they need. And of course, the rest of the afternoon will be, the team will have work sessions. And Wednesday, March 24th at 8:30, they begin again, and this is when they meet with our students. So there will be 2 student focus groups. One will be all elementary students, and they ask that no one under the 4th grade. So it'll be all 4th and 5th grade students. And then it'll be 2 students from each elementary school. And then there will be a group of secondary students. So your middle grades and high school students, 2 from each school, will meet with another group of the team members at 8:30. And then finally at 10 o'clock on Wednesday, that's when they will meet with a group of parents and a group of our community members. And so they've asked us to put together a group of about 10 parents, 10 to 12 parents, and then community members, not to exceed probably 12 to 15. And they will meet with each of those groups in separate Zoom meetings at 10 o'clock. And then that will last for 1 hour, and then the team will have a work session, and then they anticipate hopefully to have their exit presentation for us at 4:30 on Wednesday, and that exit presentation will be given to our superintendent, and then it'll be reported out in a different, however Mr. Williams deems is the best way to refer that information to the rest of us. So it's a busy week, and we appreciate your support. And if you have any questions as we move along, we'll certainly be here to support you and answer any questions that you may have.
Ms. Herring, we'll share that presentation immediately with board members. Any information that we get from that presentation, we'll share it with them immediately. And then we'll be making a formal presentation at the following board meeting.
Yes.
And also, board members, Ms. Taylor will be sending you a copy of the schedule tomorrow. We wanted to wait until after the presentation tonight on this, and she'll be sending that out in the morning.
We have, just so you know, we've uploaded well over 200 evidence artifacts. At this time, the schools have also uploaded an equal number of artifacts from each of their schools. And in my communication with our lead evaluator to date, she says that she has never had a district provide so much organized material and analysis to her before. And so she is looking forward to the visit. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from Mrs. Herring? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Herring. Appreciate all the hard work. And I'd like to say that, I think that this accreditation would represent a great opportunity for Lenore County Public Schools to showcase our school system. What a great job we do. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Next presentation item, Chair recognizes Mr. Charles White for a presentation on a summary of the Lenore County Public School Technology Device Renew process.
Yes, sir. Good evening. My name is Charles White, and I'm Interim Director for Media and Technology for Lenore County Public Schools. I wanted to just take a few minutes tonight to give you an update on the deployment of our one-to-one initiative within our school district. As always, my primary goal is to minimize any loss of instructional time due to any logistics of a deployment. And this year, that's been more important than ever. Over the last several months, I've been leading our engineering team to kind of set the stage for a lossless deployment. And we are seeing the results of that this week and last week. What this means is our students are receiving their new devices and turning in their old devices at the same time. Additionally, a number of core instructional apps were preloaded on the devices, so students would not have to spend time downloading any of the apps in order to continue instruction. Simply put, what this means is that they're turning in their old devices, receiving their new devices, and logging into their accounts. So our goal, as always, is to absolutely minimize any loss, and we're really seeing the fruits of that right now. And to kind of put that in perspective, my team of DLSs and our technicians were able to unbox, assign, label, case, rebox, and deliver over 8,300 iPads in less than 4 days within our district. And we did the same amount of time with our instructional MacBooks and iPads for our teachers and staff. Last week, we had a successful deployment of our teaching staff within our schools, and we begin our student deployment today. As a matter of fact, I was speaking with one of our schools who completed 3 grade levels today, and were able to really seamlessly go in, complete what they needed to do, and then move on. And this just emphasizes our focus on minimal disruption to instruction. So to kind of continue on, our next steps include, we'll be completing our student deployment, focusing on our remote students. We'll be finishing up our support staff deployments, and we'll be moving into our resale stage. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the board may have about our one-to-one deployment and where we are.
Any questions or comments for Mr. White?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to point out to the board that in the past, students have had to be without their iPads, students and staff members, for a period of time. On the low end, a week; on the high end, a few weeks during a refresh period, while other ones were taken up for the reselling process, and the new ones were distributed. During this pandemic, we did not feel that was a viable option for us. So Mr. White and his team have made it possible for our students not to be without their iPads at all. and we're working through that and getting all of the new ones out. And then you see an action item tonight declaring the other one surplus and starting to work through that process. So it's been seamless, but the most important thing is that the instruction that this whole thing is designed to support, that it's not been interrupted by our students being without their iPads. So great job, Mr. White, that our DLSs, as he said, is a team of superstars. So we celebrate them and thank them, and the principals and teachers and everybody who's had a part of this, most especially our students and our parents, who are working so hard to make instruction a reality every single day. And our parents are very important partners in that process. Thank you, Mr. White.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments for Mr. White? Thank you, Mr. White. I would like to thank the technology department and the administration for all the hard work to make this transition possible and so fluid. Next item on the presentation is the governor's order. Chair recognizes Mr. Brett Williams for a summary of Governor Cooper's executive order 195.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Harvey is going to give that summary.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Board members, we have provided you with the Cliff Notes versions of the new executive order, so I won't read them to you. They're located on your screen in board docs. But these are our latest guiding, this is our latest guiding document for operations. As I referenced earlier, this order makes allowances for the increased number of spectators for our outdoor athletic events. Additionally, as you know, Governor Cooper vetoed legislation that will require school districts to reopen fully and offer summer school. We anticipate some form of this bill to come before the governor at some point. We'll keep you updated on how any new legislation will affect our school system. As I said in my opening, you have the notes from the order and how that impacts our school district. Primarily right now is for our sports arenas and fields and our venues. I'll entertain any questions that you may have regarding the latest order by Governor Cooper.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Williams or Mr. Harvey? All right, thank you, Mr. Williams, and thank you, Mr. Harvey, for that update.
Yeah.
Next item, Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams for the February 2021 financial report.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. The February 2021 financial report summarizes budget and year-to-date activity for all Lenoir County Board of Education funds as of February 28th. Additionally, the report presents the local current expense fund balance as of the same date. As you have an opportunity to review the report, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Adams?
Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Mr. Smith.
Mr. Adams, I'm trying to see if I'm overlooking on it. Let's see, where does the CARES Act money reflect?
It is in our federal funds.
Yeah, I knew it was in federal funds, but I was trying to find the section.
So it's not going to be presented in the level of this report.
Okay.
We'd have to have the PRC codes broken down to see the CARES Act PRC 163. We can provide that information, but it's not going to be presented in this report.
Okay, I'd like to see that at some point if you could shoot it in an email or something.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Adams, for your report.
Thank you.
And now we'll move to the action portion of the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams again to present the budget amendment number 3.
Thank you. Budget amendment number 3 is being used to revise the working budget of Lenoir County Board of Education to reflect changes that have occurred throughout the fiscal year. You'll see listed in the information, the program report code and justifications for fund and PRC listed for the amended funds being state public school funds, school food service funds, and other local current expense funds. As you have an opportunity to review the budget amendment, I will be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Adams? All right, if not, is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to budget amendment number 3?
Mr. Chair,
Chair recognizes Mr. Woods.
I recommend that we approve as presented to the budget administration changes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Smith. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I have a motion by Mr. Woods and a second by Mr. Smith to approve budget amendment number 3. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
And Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis, Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
I got you, Mr. Davis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Motion carries.
For the record, Mr. Chair, if we could note for the public in case they didn't see that Mr. Davis was yes on that vote.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So Chair recognizes that Mr. Davis voted yes for that motion. Thank you, Mrs. Murchison. Next item on the action agenda would Chair recognizes Mrs. Frances Herring to present the 2021-2022 instructional calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. Last month, you remember I presented calendar option C that received an overwhelming majority of the votes from our nearly 80% of our employees and staff who voted. And traditionally, you have a month to review the calendar, and I'm presenting it tonight for your approval. If you have any questions, please ask.
Any questions or comments from Mrs. Herring?
Mr. Chair, one question.
Chair recognizes Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir.
So I don't think this, Ms. Aaron, when we looked at this calendar last week, it just presumes that schools will be functioning as normal when it starts back in the new year. Has DPL, anybody given any kind of guidance or anything to the contrary?
No, sir, they have not. Well, given the fact that they want us to go back, they want us to have a full summer school this summer and requiring so many hours and so many days. We are planning to return with a normal calendar and a traditional school year. If something changes, we will be able, if we have learned anything this year, we have learned to pivot quickly. So if for some reason we are not able to open with this calendar, we will certainly be in a position to present to the board an updated version if needed.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions or comments from Mrs. Herring?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Mr. Anderson.
Yes, sir.
I know that the legislation that the governor just vetoed had a line in there for flexible scheduling for Lenoir County schools.
No.
I would just hope that as we look at summer school, the possibility that some flexibility may be upcoming as far as legislation, that we're taking a comprehensive look, starting from the summer, going into the fall, and having some type of connectivity. Having said that, I move to approve the calendar.
Absolutely. Mr. Anderson is correct. I agree with everything he said, and we certainly are committed to that. But the bill he's referring to was sponsored by Representative Humphrey. That was a local bill, and it was not tied to the Senate.
Mr. Williams, before we have discussion, could we get a second on that motion?
Well, yes, thank you, Mrs. Merchant. I was going to ask Mr. Anderson if that was a motion.
It was.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, Mrs. Murchison.
That was a local bill sponsored by Representative Humphrey for Lenoir County. And it was not tied to the Senate bill that was approved and went to the governor. So it was a separate thing, but he has entered that bill. But we are committed to exactly what you're saying, Mr. Anderson, about really looking at the whole picture and not just having a self-contained enhancement opportunity, but really an integrated structure, integrated support structures to bolster our instructional efforts with kids and really assess deficiencies and address those instructional gaps and deficiencies and try to help get our kids back closer to where they would have been.
Yes, sir.
So thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, I recognize Mr. Smith.
question from Ms. Murchison. Ms. Murchison, would this be a point, or do we need to wait to the vote to kind of ask about the summer school or make some comments on the summer school program that was passed by the House and waiting on the Senate?
Well, you're discussing your summer school options, right? So I think you can go ahead and comment on that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to kind of make the public kind of aware of, that may not be aware of what's going on with that bill, the portion of it about the summer school and the fact that everybody's in favor of summer school and now to bring the kids back up or to get them back to where they should be. But I think they should know that that particular bill doesn't come with any funding. That particular bill lays strictly on the school districts to fund. They're passed the bill through the House, but no money came with it. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. And some of the that was some of the concerns that I heard when I got on the Southeast District meeting that was held last week. A lot of concerns from other school districts was the fact that they have another mandate with no funds, but they're saying, well, you can use the COVID-19 money that you were given, but that money that most schools were given used specifically for what they said for us to use it for, PPE and different things. So I want the public to just be aware that if this bill does pass in the fashion that it is now in the Senate, then it's all on the schools to fund it. You know, so you're looking at transportation, you're looking at having to pay teachers, and you're looking at new child nutrition. The whole gamut is on the school district and not on the state or the federal government. And I just want the public to understand that when we do that, that's where the money is coming from and not coming from the federal or state government.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Davis to approve the 2021-2022 instructional calendar. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. The motion carries.
Thank you.
Next item on the action agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Eric Adams to present surplus property from Lenoir County Public School Technology Device Refresh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, continuing with our one-to-one Apple refresh, we are seeking board approval to declare the 9,743 iPads and 1,008 MacBook Air laptops identified in the proposed resolution as surplus, and to permit staff to take the steps necessary to dispose of the equipment through one of the competitive bidding process specified in General Statute 160A-266. And you'll recall from previous refresh cycles, we used this upset bid process successfully to resell the previous two refreshes we completed. Are there any questions on the resolution?
Thank you, Mr. Adams. Any questions for Mr. Adams or any comments? Okay, is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to a resolution of the personal surplus property?
Move to adopt the resolution declaring old equipment surplus.
Okay, we got a motion by Mr. Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. Okay, we have, and make sure I got this right, Mrs. Merchant, we have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Anderson to declare personal property surplus and to initiate disposal of the surplus personal property.
Perfect. That's right.
Thank you, Mrs. Merchant. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Motion carries. All right, the next action item on the agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Brian Corey for a report on Lenore County Public School short summer session.
Good evening, Board Chair and Board members. As you know, the North Carolina State Board of Education permits students that are enrolled in EOC and EOG courses to receive additional instruction in order to demonstrate an increase in content knowledge and understanding through summer programming testing. So since the beginning of short summer session, the data does show that students in school have improved in Lenore County Public Schools. So therefore, I'm before you on tonight requesting that you approve Lenore County Public School to offer a short summer session that will provide additional instruction to students and reassess their knowledge. The instruction will be provided by teachers that are knowledgeable of the content standards and the curriculum. And again, I ask that you approve Lenore County Public Schools short summer session for 2020-21 school year with the understanding that changes could be required by the state.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Corey?
Move to approve.
Okay, we have a motion for Mr. Anderson to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think I heard Mr. Davis first. I'm not sure. I got a motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Davis to approve the Lenore County Public School summer session. Now, let me just make sure clarification. This is just that 3-day short summer session, correct?
Right. This is totally apart from and separate from what we were, the other summer opportunities we were talking about, the other summer school.
Right.
Whatever version that ends up taking, this is totally apart from that.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody understood it. Okay, we got a motion in a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Motion carries. Next item on the action agenda. Chair recognizes Mr. Harvey to present surplus items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight, the Technology Department and High School CTE Department have items that are submitted for your approval to be deemed surplus. Any proceeds derived from the sale shall be returned to their respective departments. So you have items listed in the agenda. There are a few cell phones from technology, and there are textbooks for a CTE test.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Harvey? Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to these surplus items?
Mr. Chair.
Recognize Mr. Woods.
I move that we approve the surplus items as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Woods. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Anderson. I got a motion by Mr. Woods and a second by Mr. Anderson to approve items presented as surplus. Excuse me. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we ask Ms. Tyler to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to closed session?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Mr. Anderson.
I move that the Illinois County Board of Education go into closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11 to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel files, to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the client privilege, and to consider matters relating to the initial employment of an individual employee.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Second by Mr. Davis.
Yes.
A motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Davis to move to closed session. We'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. The motion carries. We are now in closed session. Taylor, if you'll let me know when everyone has rejoined.
Still missing a few.
Okay.
Okay, I think we should be ready now, Mr. Hill.
Everybody's here? Okay. You ready? Chair recognizes that the Lenore County Board of Education is back in open session. Is there a recommendation or motion pertaining to the personnel report?
Mr. Chairman,
Chair recognizes Mr. Smith.
move to approve the personnel report with the addendum.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Smith and a second by Mr. Davis to approve the personnel report and the addendum as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. Motion carries. No further business to come before this board. Is there a recommendation or a motion pertaining to adjournment?
I move to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Woods. Motion by Mr. Anderson, a second by Mr. Woods to adjourn the meeting. We'll ask Ms. Taylor to call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Mr. Anderson,
Yes.
Mr. Smith,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Mr. Woods,
Yes.
Dr. Outlaw.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. The motion carried. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you all. Be safe.
Everybody, be safe.